Here's kind of an odd topic. Let's talk about the principle of pain. Pain draws people in, and I know that sounds kind of weird, but let me give you an example. So, I'm not the thinnest guy in the world now, but when I was younger, it was even worse. And when I was about, I want to say 11, 12 years old, I weighed maybe 155, 160 pounds, probably between 10 and 11, and I was like 4'8", 4'9". I was a big kid. And there wasn't a whole lot that I was doing about it at that moment. It really escalated when we moved into an apartment building, and my brother was thin, had abs, and I noticed that there was a difference. Even at that young age, like I could feel that, it bothered me. But when it got real bad was one specific event. We had gone to the beach, and I guess, you're with family. I never really at that point was super embarrassed. I just took off my shirt, whatever, and I was bigger, and I would play and this and that, but I was a kid and I was with my family. I just didn't think about it. But we met a friend who we met while we were there. I didn't really know who he was, and he ended up having one of these things called like a skimboard. It's like a thin piece of wood that you kind of toss along the water and you get on it and whatever. And we were all out at the beach playing and whatnot, and then he brings this thing out and he's doing it, and he says to my brother, "Hey, do you want to try?" And then my brother's doing it, and then I said, "Oh, can I try?" And he said, "I'm scared you're gonna break it." Now, he was a kid, he didn't know what he meant. At that point, it was almost like I had just eaten the forbidden fruit and realized I was naked. It like hit me. Like I still remember today thinking like, wow, like that was the first time being overweight was ever embarrassing to me, or it ever really hit me. And so it was in my brain now, and it bothered me. Well, it wasn't too long after that, my mother and I were watching this infomercial. And we're at the apartment building, and we're watching this infomercial, and it was these people who have lost all this drastic weight by doing one thing: putting this band around their waist that sent electronic impulses to their abs. Now, it's the dumbest thing in theory. I mean, any person who just logically would think about it and say, okay, can you really lose weight just by having electrical impulses on your stomach? Because there's so much more involved in losing weight. And nowadays, I fluctuate up and down, but I know how to lose weight. It's just when I get busy and I'm not eating properly that I gain. It's just natural in my family that we can be a little bit bigger. And I know now, using just plain logic as an adult, like that's just not going to work. But at the time, they did the most. They touched on the pain points. They talked about not having time for working out. They talked about not wanting to even. And they hit all these different pain points. And then they showed embarrassing people who were fat at one point, and they were embarrassingly not fitting into seats, and they were having embarrassing moments. And at that time, I'm sitting here imagining the embarrassing moment of not being able to use this kid's board because I was fat, and my mom, felt bad for me, and we sat there watching this thing. And then they start showing all these testimonials of all these people that have done it. And that, these case studies were doing way more than just using this belt. Sure enough, $50 later, that thing was being shipped to our house. And, regularly I'd put the little gel on my fat stomach and I'd put this band on, and it would, and it did nothing for me. I mean, I guess you would feel a little sore, but maybe I think that anytime you shock, the crap out of your stomach for an hour, yeah, you're going to be a little bit sore, but it never caused any weight loss. I think the theory behind it was that, you'd work your ab muscles and they would burn calories and whatever. What's the point of this story? That company, although it was a scam, skillfully used pain points and testimonials to really draw me in. It shows how important pain points are, and how pain points almost blind logic sometimes. Now, we're not trying to manipulate people or scam people. I will never condone that. But the fact remains that anytime you're making a decision online, anytime someone makes a decision online, it was irrational. They did not know that it was going to be shipped, that it was going to work out. Maybe they thought about it for a little while, but until they actually got results or they actually joined, for instance, you taking my course, that was an irrational thing to do. But now that you're in it, it will validate and you'll build credibility. You'll see that, okay, that was actually a good decision. But no matter what, everything we do is kind of on a guess. So when you think about trying to get people to engage online, whether they're just submitting their information or whether or not they are swiping a card, whatever, you have to get them narrowed into where they're no longer thinking just logically, because logically they'll always walk away. And if we are selling something that's a quality product, then we can feel good about knowing that we are selling them on something that's going to work for them. And here's the thing, is if it's going to work, if you believe in it and you're 100% believing in it, then you can feel good about that. The people selling that equipment that I bought, boy, that was really a scam because they knew that didn't work. They knew that that was not going to change people's lives. But they found pain points. So how do you find these pain points? Well, one of the best ways, which has been discussed, is surveys. Figuring out what people want. But also, and this is probably one of my favorite ones, is trying to study people and their behaviors and really trying to get into their shoes. You know, when I think about somebody, you know, maybe who has a disability, and I try to think about some of the things that would bother me. You know, like let's just pretend, well, I personally have a spinal cord disease, but let's pretend that it's something with, you know, like their legs. Let's say they're wheelchair bound. Now, I'm not wheelchair bound, so all I can do is imagine. And they have to watch everybody's life from a chair. They can never get up and run. You just think about how you can right now, possibly, I don't know, a lot of people, most of us, could go outside and just run as fast as we want if we want to. It might not be that fast, but to us it would feel like a full stride. They can never get that feeling. Or, and people who have joint pain, they have that same issue. You know, not being able to reach things, feeling like you're a burden, feeling like everything that you do is tying someone else down. You start this feeling of worthlessness, then you sink into a depression. I don't have those things, but I have the ability to put myself in their shoes and think, imagining it, possibly not being able to go run with your children. You know, these are things that they're having to deal with on a daily basis. Now, what if you have a product that can help those people or bring those people more comfort or take away joint pain, and you know it works and you know that this is going to change lives? How would you sell that to them? Well, maybe your ad copy would say something like this. It's hard watching everybody's life from a chair. Or, I remember when I used to be able to run at a full stride. Saying things that they can relate with immediately. They see it and it triggers, that's how I feel. That's how I am. And then you go a little bit further. You explain it with a storyline. And if it's not yours, don't lie. Find somebody who has a story, tell their story. You know, Karen watches everyone's life from a wheelchair. She wishes so bad that there was some way that she could feel enthusiastic about life again. She finally found something that would help. With blah, 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 she is able to blah, 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 blah. Look at Karen today. Now, Karen, blah, blah, and then you have video, you know, I'm just making this part of it up as I go, but you can see how that's how marketing and advertising is done. Really, what it comes down to is being empathetic and understanding people, understanding how people think, in their brain, and you got to reverse engineer it because you're not always going to have someone there to tell you how to do it. So one of the problems people have is they just go too fast immediately. Okay, I want to sell this. Boom, I'm going to go really fast. I'm going to get this. I want to get my ad copy, blah, blah, blah. I'll split test it though. That's smart. That's research. And they do that. And then that's where they end up falling short. And it's not working for them. They don't get results for the client. They don't know why. It's because they didn't take the time to think about it. They didn't take the time to put themselves in those shoes. They didn't take the time to think about, well, would that person even go through to the next page? Is there a reason for them? Did I give them a cliffhanger? Did I, there's a lot of things that do go into it. But it's going to come down to common sense and experience for you. Now, I'm going to show you guys as much as I can here, but you need to know that, and that's why I call things principles, not rules. Sometimes you're going to need to break some of the things that I say. Sometimes you're going to need to do just the opposite. And then sometimes you need to follow it to the T. Now, when it comes to sales, follow it to the T. But when it comes to marketing, there really are no rules. The people who break the rules are the ones who do really good. The people who say your grammar wasn't good, the people who say blah, blah, this, those are the ones who are terrible. Those are the ones who are not getting results. Otherwise, they really wouldn't care that these things happened. You look at some of the ads, the great ads of history, they break rules. For instance, you remember the Apple commercial where you saw the person running and then the hammer, and you saw all that stuff. They were, for the first time, engaging with people. Think about all the commercials at that point were humorous or maybe is talking at people, but they were getting people drawn in. They were kind of like hanging off of what was going to happen next. That is how you get good at marketing. So if you're going to continue as a marketing person, you really need to start trying to understand people. Don't just go to a shopping center, get your stuff and go. Watch people. Don't let them see it because that could be creepy. But watch people, observe them. See what it is how they think, how they process things. Are they looking at nutritional facts or are they buying based off of labels? You go to a wine section. Do they really know what the difference between these Chardonnays are? Or are they just buying based off of the label? There's so many things that we can learn just by observing people. And you can become a very smart marketing person just by observing people. Learn their pain points. Learn their triggers.